Have you ever stared at a reading list so massive and thought to yourself, how exactly could I ever go through this? Well, I've got good news. I've figured out a system that helps me make my next year's reading list exciting, manageable, and flexible. Just 12 books and 12 months, tailored to match my mood and curiosity. Let me show you how it works. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, I'm Kuba and I'm a seasoned app developer with over 6 apps live on the App Store. And welcome back to Book Snippets, a series where we talk all about books. Today, I'm sharing exact reading list I'm going through in 2025. And let me clarify it before I start, it's not rigid, it's only 12 books, each for 1 month. Obviously, we can read much more than that, and so there is gonna be a lot of change here. I've chosen 12 books, most of them short, but some of them are quite longer, just to stay flexible, because we know how life works. Life happens, mood shifts, and sometimes randomly just a random book calls you to read me please. Whether you're a fiction lover or non-fiction fan, this video is just for you and you're gonna find something that you will enjoy in next year. Alright, let's kick things off with non-fiction lineup. I've got 6 books here, and let's start with book number 1, which is Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. I recently listened to a podcast with Trevor Noah and his story is unbelievable. From growing up in apartheid South Africa to becoming one of the most recognizable faces in comedy, this book is in equal parts hilarious and deeply moving, and I can't wait to read it soon. The moment I watched the podcast, I immediately got this one for me. Alright, next up we have Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. Did you know that EQ, E from emotional, matters more than IQ? I'm diving into this one to understand relationships and myself better and understand how people work. Alright, next up on the list is Why Nations Fail by James Robinson. This one is pretty big one, honestly, but I have some really good reasons to actually read this book in 2025. History, Economics, and the Fate of Civilizations. This book answers the question, why do some countries thrive while others fall apart? Spoiler, it's not just about resources, it's much more deeper than that. And this one, by the way, has been laying on my to-be-read pile for a year. And I don't know if it's a good recommendation or not, but reading this book in 2025, given what's been going on in the world recently, and the right-leaning tendency of many countries, it may be interesting to understand and dive deeper into deeper reasons why exactly the world works this way. Alright, the 4th book on the list is Anti-Fragile by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. Imagine not just surviving in chaos, but actually thriving in it. That's the idea behind the book, and honestly, who doesn't need something of that in our lives? The 5th position is well known for all of us iOS developers, and that is a biography of Steve Jobs. It's a book I actually read every now and then. Recently I read it 2 years ago, and every time I read it I find something new. If I had to summarize this book in one sentence, it's an emotional roller coaster, and for the most part of the book you're gonna actually hate Steve Jobs. But love him or hate him, there is so much we can all learn from his story. And lastly, in my lineup of non-fiction books is Rework, a non-BS guide to working smarter and not harder. Perfect if you're like me or just an iOS developer curious to streamline their workflow. But wait, non-fiction is only half of the story. The next part of this video is where the things get really interesting. Now for the fiction, the books that transport you to other worlds and leave you thinking about them long after you turn the last page. And if you watch my tips on how to read more, you'll understand why so many fiction books can linger in your mind for months to come. And the first book on the list is The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle by Murakami. Murakami's writing style is like stepping into a dream. The book is so strange yet beautiful and totally captivating. My first book I read by Murakami was Norwegian Wood, and I instantly fell in love in his writing style. And his book on what I talk about when I talk about running helped me stay motivated and to run more. So, talking about Murakami, what's next on the list? Well, another Murakami. And this one is South of the Border, West of the Sun. This is actually a pretty short novella, and honestly I just want to read everything that Murakami has written. And this book, even if it's short, it's probably gonna be so magnificent as the rest of them. Alright, next up is the book I actually read. Kafka on the Shore, I read it 2 years ago, and it's so strange. It actually keeps you so hooked in on the story that you can't stop reading this one. it's amazing. What I love most about it is that it makes you question reality from a so strange angle I can't even think about how do I describe it. A total must-have for everyone. Alright, and next up is a book I've been meaning to read for the past 2 years. It's been waiting on my reading list also for the past 2 years, and that is Man's Search for Meaning. A powerful reminder that even in the darkest times, we can find purpose. This one is going to be a tough, but I think the most important read in this year. Next up, we're almost done, is Panenka. And Panenka is a beautiful story about regret, redemption and second chances, because everyone needs a second chance. And lastly on the list is a book that you may know from a series on Apple TV+, and that is Pachinko. And Pachinko is an epic multi-generational saga that's been waiting on my list since the moment I watched the first episode of Apple TV+ series, and then I stopped because I knew that I have to read this one first. So you may ask, why 12 books exactly and not 18 or 24 or even 72 as I read this amount of book in 2022? Well, here's a threefold secret why. Firstly, it's flexible. I'm not locking myself into this rigid schedule that I need to read this book by the end of Friday and so that I will manage to read 6 books by the end of November, for example. If something else catches my eye, I can just easily grab a new book, for example, and just read it without feeling worried that I might miss a shot. Secondly, it's about balance. I've got a mix of non-fiction books for my personal growth and 6 books for fun, but by the end of the day, it's all about keeping it fresh. And lastly, it's manageable. Life gets busy sometimes, and it's important to have goals that you can actually accomplish and you know for sure that you will deliver. Every book is like an adventure, and I can't wait where these ones will take me in 2025. But here's one thing I didn't mention, and that is how I managed to read so many books while working full-time and studying full-time as well. If you're curious about habits and strategies that helped me achieve that, click on this video and learn more. And I'll see you in a sec when I will show you exactly how.